iHeart Art is proudly brought to you by Art Shed Online. For art supplies of all kinds at great prices, visit Australia's #1 art supplier at artshedonline.com.au.
Hi there, thanks for watching iHeart Art. My name is Emma Morgan and I'm a wildlife illustrator. Today I'm going to be drawing an animal for you in some fine liner and watercolour. So I'm going to start with this reference that I have. I always work from a reference. And I'm going to sketch in pencil first just to get myself a shape. And then I'm going to go in with the pen. So first thing is I like to break whatever I'm drawing down into shapes. Just really rough and really light. I'm just focusing on the head today. This is like a really important part of the process because it really outlines the whole drawing. So if I get this wrong, it makes it a bit difficult further on. But it's usually also the quickest bit of the drawing. We have to keep these lines really light because we have to rub them out afterwards. So if they're too dark, then they imprint on the paper and it doesn't look very good. Reference is really important so you can really look at what you're doing. You shouldn't really try and guess too much. Well, I mean, there's always a bit of creative freedom, but I'm always super messy with pencil, but that's okay. This is an Eastern Grey Kangaroo that I'm drawing. I see them a lot because I live down on the Mornington Peninsula. And my friends and I go for walks through the bush around there in the briars, and they're everywhere and they're really hilarious. They kind of stare at you and when you walk past they get out of your way pretty quickly. So I don't go into too much detail with the pencil, just enough to kind of give myself a guide for when I put the pen down, because the pen gets all the detail. Okay, I'm gonna go into a little bit more detail with some pen. Once I have my basic pencil sketch down. I'm a bit of a diva and I only use these Copic multi-liners. Usually in smaller sizes. I like the 1 and the 0.05 and 0.03. I really like them because you can layer them really easily. But I'm going to start, will I start with the 1? I'll start with 0.05. And I'm just going to roughly go around the line that I was making. And because I'm drawing an animal with fur, I really just want to do like tiny little strokes and try and roughly follow my line, but also really follow the reference. Like I never trust what I've done. It's just a guide. So I always start at the top and work down as well. So you can make sure your drawing actually is fitting on the surface that you're doing. I'm a little bit off here. And this is great because it's such a thin line. If you do need to go over it, you can cover it pretty well. Because I guess the thing with pen is once it's down, it's down. I picked a kangaroo today because I really like drawing Australian animals, but they're also, like I grew up with them everywhere around me at home. We had koalas in the garden and they make this really awful like growling noise at night, which sounds almost demonic. But kangaroos are really sweet. Or maybe they're not when they kick you, I don't know. I'm just following my line really lightly. And the best way is really to look at things in shapes, like don't also go in like assuming you know what you're drawing. Like you really have to focus on your reference because it'll help a lot. That was the thing that I learned when I was at uni and drawing, is never to guess. Kangaroos have such nice eyelashes. Pen's a bit of a scary medium to draw in if you're not used to drawing. Like I really recommend if you're starting out drawing that you try something like charcoal, which is also an annoying medium, but it's really great to learn with. And I think most people that like do drawing at university or anywhere like that would use charcoal because it's easy to teach you the basics of depth and darkness, and it's easy to go over your lines and stuff. Like it's really easy to rework charcoal. Pen's not very forgiving. Sometimes I just make little dots too if I'm not sure, 100% sure where my lines are. Kind of have to let the drawing do it at once sometimes. We're going to take a break, and when we come back I'm going to show you how to go in with a little bit more detail with the pens. Okay, so I'm still adding a little bit of detail to our kangaroo friend, and I'm still using the same fine liner. I just went back and adjusted some of my pencil lines just so I was pretty close to my reference. That's okay to do, like with a working drawing, like go back and look at things. You should never assume you're right the first try. Like I don't never do that because I'm usually not right. So I've started with little lines on this, still using this tiny 0.05. And all I do to start with when I'm doing fur is just tiny little lines, like row by row. It's a little bit tedious, but pays off in the end, I think. As I was saying before, this is kind of like layering. So this is like the first little layer of grey and texture. And then I can go over parts again when I look back and start locking in my darker areas and my lighter areas. So I've gone to this it's like a triangle in his face, because when I look at the reference, his nose is a lot lighter than the top of his head. So I want to make sure that my drawing reflects that. So I concentrate on the darker bit first. And the direction of the line can be important too, because you really want to follow like the way the fur's going. So kind of on an angle here, just a little bit. And I'm really like looking for little details, like around his eye is dark here and dark here, and also under his eye. So I want to make sure I emphasize that too. So the closer together you do these tiny little lines, obviously the darker it is, and the further apart there's going to be more space, so they're lighter, if that helps. So we'll go around the eye now. Just tiny lines. He's got this line of white just under his eye, so I want to just leave that, some white there. And I can see this shape, kind of semicircle shape, and I just want to sketch that in, because I know that's going to be dark. That's the thing with this, you want to pick, like you've got to work out where your darks are, and then you can just lock them in and it makes life easier. It's all about trying to blend it together. It's good to work the whole drawing as one too, like I never recommend just focusing on one little area for ages, because you can get too stuck into detail and then make mistakes, and you look back and you're like, oh, I spent so much time and it's not working, which is annoying if you've spent like 8 hours on it. So I don't want a hard edge on that bit either, so I'm just gonna, I know it looks a bit whack at the moment, but it hopefully will work. So it's going to be really embarrassing if it doesn't. I'm going to bring these lines off the eye too, like out, to kind of give it shape. I've left his little eyelashes in too. So this is called cross hatching, doing this, where I go in one direction for a little bit and then switch direction. Really lightly, you don't have to press hard with these pens. They do wear down quite quickly, so I'm going to go in a little bit here, make that darker. Bring that out. And all I'm doing is following the light and dark on my image and hoping for the best. Sometimes it's easier, I find, if I put these little like dark patches I'm trying to draw in on my reference first, and then I keep doing my little lines over the top, and then you get that layer. That's a good way to work sometimes. I'll show you. It's just a case of working over your lines a lot so that they blend well. So it's not too jarring. So you don't want like really sharp, harsh black and then light, which is kind of what this is doing a little bit at the moment. I mean, you can totally do that, but that's not what I'm going for. Your line weight's really important as well. So I haven't switched pen yet. Obviously, like the bigger the nib, the heavier the line. And I try and use that quite sparingly because it definitely helps using varying line weights because it gives you just you can establish weight a little bit better. Like you can really get into where is dark and where is light. I'll show you when we get to that stage though. Just really I'm not pressing very hard with this pen at all. And I just want to connect it to my lines up here. Okay, I'm gonna work on this and fill in the other side of the face, do exactly the same thing, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to fill in a little bit more detail. Thanks for watching I Heart Art. Hey guys, welcome back. I have just filled in my kangaroo with some more little lines everywhere, and now I'm going to go in with a bit more detail. So I'm going to switch pens, but before I do that I'm going to rub out my original pencil line that I did, just so that I can see where my lines ended up. You can just take any eraser to do this. The pen won't move. I do find sometimes with these little pens, they can rub out a bit because they're so fine. But that's okay. But I have found if you have messed up a little bit on these lighter lines, you can kind of rub over them and it takes some of the darkness out, just a little bit, which is cool. Just helps you see what you're doing. Sometimes I do this quite early on if I'm really confident in the outline that I've done, and sometimes I need to leave them a bit. Like I found I've had to go back a couple of times and just look at my original lines before I've drawn with a pen. As you can see, like around this cheek, I've kind of gone in a couple of times, but that's fine because we can kind of cover that. I'm going to go in to the nose now. And it's the same idea, like you just want to focus on the blacks first. And I'm going to switch pen. I'm going to go in with one because the nose is quite black. So if it looks black, like if you squint at it and it looks black, you can go in pretty heavy to start with. Like it's where things are grey that you need to work light with pen because there's not much room for error. So I'm just literally filling this black in. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. And then just up the side of the nose here. Same process, lots of little lines. And you can see how this pen already looks a little heavier, because it is. And you've got to be careful with like looking for light on things like noses, and also under the eye. We've done this up here too. That you leave that and you can go over it. You can always go over stuff later. So I'm going to try and get this grey on the tip of the nose, and I'm going to actually go lighter, like 0.03. And really light there. I'm going to focus bringing it out from the middle here. So it's just cross-hatching again, just building it up. And this is a really fine pen again, just so I can control how dark stuff is. It's got this line here I need to put in here too. Go back with one and make that darker down there. Just little strokes. And you just keep layering. That's the way I work anyway. Here. Kangaroos are actually really weird animals, aren't they? In a cool way though. I think I enjoy drawing the weird animals more though. It's really interesting to observe and to look at. I always want to show animals in their best light when I'm drawing them though. Try and capture something about them that I see in them, which is always good things. It's not really any animals that I don't like. But yeah, kangaroo is actually pretty big. So I'm just going layering again, just over the nose here. I'll bring this under here a bit more.
So we're at 10 minutes now.
Cool.
How do you want to continue this?
So the bit that I've just shown you with layering this nose and blacks and greys, like that's really the crucial bit. Like it's the crucial way that I work with fine liner. It's how you can get lots of depth and building line weight. That's really the secret to getting something to look naturalist or representational, I think, and not super flat. So I think that's all we have time for on this episode, but if you want to tune in next week, I'll show you how I finish up this drawing and add all the extra little details. If you'd like to see more of my work, you can go to my website at www.emmamorgan.com.au. Thanks for watching.
iHeart Art is proudly brought to you by Art Shed Online. For art supplies of all kinds at great prices, visit Australia's #1 art supplier at artshedonline.com.au.